Abora Boye Boshishade is I Ifakolade, Umilade, Bato, scene of Sacred Waters Healing Temple, home of divine mysticism, ancestral veneration, and ancient medicine from modern times. This is a sacred space rooted in wisdom, healing, and the living traditions of our ancestors. Here, we guide individuals in reconnecting with their lineage, destiny, and their spiritual practice through the teachings of Ifa Isheshe, along with practical tools for wealth, wellness, and legacy building. I, Ivakolade, have been a practitioner of divine mysteries for over 18 years. My work is centered in helping individuals to align with their legacy through wealth, wisdom, and wellness in this lifetime. Sacred Waters Healing Temple is the home of ancestral medicine. One of our core services is ancestral discovery and genealogy consultations to assist individuals with tracing their lineage, uncovering their heritage, and reconnecting with their ancestral names and stories. In Ifa Isheshe, knowing your ancestors is the foundation of spiritual connection. They are the first spirits that you call by name. We offer consultations and budget-friendly packages to assist you on your ancestral journey. I also offer wealth and wellness consulting, whether it's real estate, credit and finance, tax preparation, life insurance, mutual fund investing, wills and trust formation, identity and legacy formation. My goal is to help you align your spirituality and financial responsibilities with your destiny, your path on this journey. I am a practitioner of Iwe, the sacred science of herbs, oils, tinctures, candles, and ritual medicines. Many of us in the diaspora forget that the herbs in our own backyard carry spiritual and healing power. If you're looking to connect with the ancestral herbal wisdom, I offer guidance and homemade remedies. As an Epetebe, the wife of a Rumila within the Ifa tradition, I also teach sacred roles of women within Ifa and Isheshe. Ifa Isheshe. I assist those who are interested in discovering their destiny, strengthening their spiritual gifts, understand their sacred roles, heal from societal misconceptions, and more. We offer nightly classes for women who want to grow spiritually within the tradition. If you're a part of an Ile and you want to discover how you can build your own spiritual Ile, your own home, whether it's you as an individual or you have your own family, husband, wife, children, or you want to work within a community, whatever they may be, I am offering consultations to help you to establish, build, protect, and preserve your spiritual legacy. If you are not a part of an Ile, but you feel called to walk this path, you are welcome to schedule a consultation with me as well. All of the services that I'm offering here are embodied within healing practices of Ifa Isheshe. So whether it's spiritual guidance, divination, ancestral wisdom, and ritual work, Epetebe training, getting women's instructions, spiritual development and masteries. Our philosophy with Sacred Waters Healing Temple is that, you be the water. You be the water. And I'll be the bridge. And I will promise you that I will not let you drown. Along with building your legacy, understanding the pragmatic and philosophical approach, along with understanding your calling, your destiny here on this earth, and helping you to protect and preserve what that may be, I am offering or partnering alongside of Oloye Ifa Karade, a chief elder and professor of Yoruba religious practices of sage wisdom of over 50 years, over 50 years of information about what Ifa Isheshe is, and so much more within his mystical mind. He is offering a 4-part lecture series for those, whether you're just beginning, you've been in the tradition for a long time, and you just want to get refreshed, or you've been curious about what this is all about. He has a Ifa Isheshe 4-part lecture series that he's offering for beginners, non-initiates, or individuals simply seeking a grounded, mystical, pragmatic approach of what Ifa Isheshe is all about. This is definitely what you want if you're an individual that's seeking practical, spiritual development, whether it be for yourself or your children or for Ile that you are also trying to establish in your future. This is the part that you need. This is the part that you want to incorporate to assist in grounding. And so if you're looking to connect, if you're interested in connecting, the links will be provided in the description. We welcome you to be a part of this Karade Nation, this Sacred Waters Healing Temple of ours, and just understand what this spiritual movement is all about. If you're ready to reconnect with your Ashe, your Ashe, your own Ashe, your own spiritual path, I invite you to join us. Schedule a consultation, attend a class, simply stay connected with the temple, and we will not let you drown, I promise. Oh boy, yay!
Alafia, Alafia,
Boy, yay, boy, she say, how are you doing?
Agbo Ato, Àṣírí Ìwọ Ìwòfún,
Mm-hmm.
Dáadáa ni mo wá dáadáa. I'm doing very well. And
Benny,
you?
Benny, all is well, all is well. Thank you
Ṣé
so much.
Alafia ni? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So, all right. So, what do we have on the agenda for today?
Well, as you can see, I have been working behind the scenes and I changed things up a bit, adding us a nice commercial introduction.
Yes.
So I wanted to make sure that we have a much more smoother introduction coming in. And
Yes.
so it was just a nice little 5 minutes, but we got it together. And so I know today we have exciting things to talk about, but I don't want to skip over that this month, February 27th,
Hmm.
drum roll. Well, we have been aimlessly working very, very hard for like the last 3 months, building things up, building up this momentum, keeping this momentum together. We finally have a class scheduled for the 4 part lecture series for individuals who have been curious to know what exactly the 4 part lecture series is all about. The 4 part lecture series is is for individuals who are looking for a grounded, pragmatic, philosophical approach to Ifa Isheshe. I say it again, I'll probably say it another time as if it's a mantra to get it through your head so that you understand our approach and what we're offering, why we're on these cameras on Sundays, why he does daily doses of elder wisdom with Awake with E5 Monday through Sunday, why we're doing these things, why he has been doing it for the last 50 years, where the name comes from, the lineage, and everything that encompasses inside of it. Now you understand, you will understand what it is all about. So, Ifai Sheshe 4 part lecture series is now being brought to you with an invitation to join if you so choose to desire, whether you've been in the tradition for many years, took a break from it, want to refresh, want to, get grounded, maybe want to introduce it to your partner, your children, your classmates, your school, whatever you got going on. However you want to do, you're more than welcome to join. The links are in the description, and we will be happy to have you. So February the 27th, we have a class schedule, and you're welcome to attend. Yeah.
Right. I mean, I'm going to sign up. I'm
I'm
going to
signing
sign
up
up.
too.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So, Ekabo, good people, welcome, welcome, welcome. And Nuako, come on in and learn with us. You see? So, I mean, after so many years of being involved in life and living and rebirthing and resurrecting and holding steadfast to Ifa, I may have come to know one or two things. Okay. And that third thing is that I'm still learning more. Okay. So the invitation is not to sit, and watch, although it says lecture, I don't want you, dear listeners, and those who are getting involved, to feel that we'll just sit and watch it on a no. As a professor, as a secondary school teacher, now retired again. Okay, I push for interaction. I feel as though you need to be heard as much as you need to hear. So that there's the reciprocity, and clearly that increases, enhances, magnifies, if you will, the learning process. Okay, so uh, truly consider, truly consider joining. I do realize after so much time in this and being at initial stages, you know, that there's a lot of ritual and a lot of ceremony, but there's not a lot of learning. Okay. And that's not a put down, because you have ritual specialists, you have ceremonialists, if I can make up that word. However, I don't think it's too far of a fetch to embrace the understanding, the inner standing, that knowledge, and increasing a prior knowledge base, the PKB as I call it, is of extreme importance. And part of that necessitates interaction, because then you now feel more able to interact with a book, or interact with your own thoughts, or have dialogue and discussions, as opposed to being moved away from the critical thinking part of adapting and growing and surviving. All right. So thank you, Ianifa, for bringing all of this to uh, the people's attention, because not a lot of it is going on, you
Mhm.
know, and basically outside of the usual, And so now here we're coming with a brand new song, okay? And the voices are harmonizing with the Ifa cosmology. Rumula is saying, you got to be pragmatic. You have to have a philosophical foundation. Other than that, you're just doing the same thing you was doing before you got into Ifa initiation. So there has to be a kind of what we call an iconoclastic, uprooting, and then the cleansing, and then the deliverance, what we call tawede. All
That's
right. So,
absolutely.
all right. So where are we going from here? What's
Well,
happening?
well, I know that you got topics today
Uh,
about the book, speaking
mm,
on Eshu, and I'm glad that you mentioned, again, the aspect of rituals and moving forward from being so stuck in that one way of practicing, right? And so I would like to, dive into Eshu in the stories out of
right.
Akban Inu.
All right.
Yeah,
Thank
and
you.
and
Mhm.
just so that you all know, in case you're new here, Akban Inu has been out now. And so you're welcome to, find this book and add it to your collection of the other great Karate books that are published.
All right. All
Mhm.
right. So as we move into today's kind of heading, which is SU's visit, I want to kind of preface it with this term that's becoming more familiar within our circle of the rising Agbani, uh, and that is praise writing. Okay, so yes, we can make correlations and see. comparatively how praise writing relates to, not in opposition, let's just say in addition to, okay, praise dancing, okay, or praise praying, you understand? Or, praise singing, okay? Or praise drumming. I mean, I could probably be here until next week, you know, uh, putting a finger on the number of ways that we as human beings give praise to the forms and entities, the deities and divinities that we process through our mind's eye as representations, allegorical and symbolic, of cosmic forces, however they present themselves, be they primal, you know, or enlightened. Every culture, because of the human capacity, has filtered existence through our own shape, our own finite capabilities to understand. Unfortunately, when any group is conquered or enslaved, their quote unquote religion becomes mythology. And their way of thinking becomes lessened and brought down to the level of, oh, that's foolishness, that's childishness, that's old wives' tales. You know what I mean? That's some made up stuff, as if any religion or spiritual path can fall under that same, heavy hammer. So I and if I call a day, Yanifa, if I call a day, we're bringing to the fore this term of praise writing, and we're inviting more of we who are involved in Ifa and Isheshe to write, to articulate, to take to not only heart and spirit, but also to mind. And the importance of Ori and awareness cannot be dismissed or diluted or overstated. Okay. So this is what Ogbon somewhat concisely, is all about. Because see, I'm not speaking theoretically here. And I'm not even speaking theosophical. I'm not writing this and now, everybody, bows down to it. You know, no, it's a portal. It's a gateway, a modeling, if you will, to say, join in this, join in it. You don't even have to do it for publication. That's not the point. No, the point is that you sit down and you put some thought into what you're doing, why you're doing it, and what your expectations are. Okay. Now that said, we're getting a lot of good feedback from the book. People are moved by the Ijala, the poetry of the hunters or the naturalists. You know, people are moved by the short stories that come out, and I'm elated, not because, oh, they read my story, but no, because they're so moved. They're so moved, and I invite comments. Please, please. So I'm going to speak a little bit about SU before reading SU's visit out of Ogboni New. This is just a background, and I'm drawing some passages from the first three Odu Ifa. Ejiagbe, Oyekumeji, and Iworimeji. Very briefly, okay? In Ejiagbe, we find that Eshu is granted power of the crossroads by Oludumare. We also find that Eshu is initiated by Orunmila. In Ejiagbe, it is also stated that Eshu sits at the crossroads leading to Obatala. Those who befriend Eshu, says Ejiagbe, are not troubled by wants. And lastly, for Ejiagbe, Eshu has the ashe to change or transform a person by a single blink. All right? In Oyekumeji, we are advised to sacrifice to Eshu because Iku, or death, is lurking. Oyekumeji also states that Eshu saves fish from annihilation after she finally decides to make the sacrifice and repent. She had even stated that Eshu was a thief, and therefore the children of fish began to slowly but surely lessen in population because human beings were consuming so much. After she made the sacrifice, Eshu was like, okay, I got you. Things slowed down, right? And lastly, in Iwori Meiji, Eshu was offered sacrifices to avert the downplay of slanderers in Iwori, and Eshu was offered a sacrifice to avert one's fixation, one's sight, one's over attending to wickedness. It's also interesting that Red Cloth uh, offered a sacrifice to Eshu here in Iwori Meiji, and the agreement that Red Cloth and Eshu uh, formed, if you will, was that Red Cloth would never attend a funeral. Okay, so here it is this background of, at least in the first three Odus, just a little sprinkling of the nature and the character essence of Eshu. And there's a lot going on even in Nigeria about Eshu with Satan. And even when you Google something about Eshu and it says in Yoruba, and then you hit translation, you see devil. This was up to this morning. Okay? So we have subconscious notions based on what we're exposed to, and we also have conscious notions, in terms of what we accept. We're here to not only combat that, because it is a war. It's a war for the mind. It's a psychological war. Brainwashing and all terms relative to is occurring via propaganda, prejudice, bias. And for all of these thousands of years, where the SU principle was one of assisting and guiding, all of a sudden, when the Abrahamics come in, because they're going to put him with the devil or the trickster. I strongly urge us to just not let that come into us, okay? And that we find ways, again, to combat it. One of my ways is to pay attention. So here we go with Eshu's visit. It's a brief, short story, so bear with me. All right? About a week ago, I found myself in the park, deeply immersed in my practice of Tai Chi and meditation. I'd sought partial shade beneath the branches of a shaded tree, and with incense engulfing the cleared area, I faced the small man-made pond and the geyser-like jettison of water that sprouted. Needless to say, it was an awesome, temperate early morning, and I relished the breeze and relative quiet of the tamed forest. which I call a park. Okay. As time and breathing and form intensified, I happened to see, from the corner of my eyes, a young boy of about 7 years or so approaching. His gait and direction clearly indicated that he was, without reservation, heading not only in my direction, but directly towards me. The elder, who earnestly tried to keep up, trailed him. She appeared somewhat discouraged, and it seemed that she long ago stopped trying to settle him down once he'd set his mind to something. I smiled inside my stoic disguise and quietly gave him my attention. He stood arm's length in front of me. He was alert and highly inquisitive in his demeanor. "What are you doing?" he asked, directly yet lightheartedly. "Tai Chi," I responded, though still I maintained my movements. "What's that smell?" he asked. "Incense," I replied. By this time, there was not a shadow of doubt in my mind. I was being visited by a shoe. Being no stranger to visitations and better able to discern and embrace them, now there have been times when I had to learn the hard way. I eased my mind and opened my spirit of devotion. He smiled a wide, boyish grin. "Bye," he said as he energetically pivoted and walked away. "Bye," I echoed. I returned to my Tai Chi form only to shortly after sense him coming up behind me. I turned easily to meet him. He held a flower stem with sparse yellow petals that he must have plucked from the nearby ground. Where else could he have gotten it from? I gazed at him and the stem, not wanting to assume anything. Smiling, he held the flower stem up and then gave it to me. "Thank you," I said. He waved, turned, and ran light-footedly towards his caregiver, who'd been waiting silently in the distance. Okay, it's difficult to articulate the depth of such experiences, but believe me when I say that the attempt to do so in and of itself is profound. I mean, my perspective of how I perceive shifted because the paradigm was altered. I felt a deeper understanding of everything and the need to embrace what I would call a reevaluation or shifting of the perspective paradigm. No, I don't accept that I'm reading too much into this. I realize at this age, a stage when I'm being uplifted, and by whom? Spiritually, religiously speaking, and by what? When speaking of natural forces and or signs. Those of you who know about such things can relate, I'm sure. Those of you who aren't or don't, the time will come when the epiphany dawns. Now that ends the story. Okay. Esu'S visit. Okay, taken out of Ogbon. All right, Ianifa, let's talk.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. Um, so whenever I usually hear about issue, I think about communication. I think
Mhm.
about children too, and elders. I think about how playful issue can be, and I liked how you said it was more so your perception of what you were analyzing, in that moment, being visited by a young boy coming through, his inquisitive, his curiosities,
Right,
his playfulness. it, it definitely reminds me of the same thing of how I think about issue. My
yeah.
question to you is about more about the red cloth because
You want to go back to Oye Komeji?
yeah. Can you tell me
Okay.
more about the red cloth? Um,
There's not too much more to say. I mean,
because
that
I have.
it in the Odu, and it's in red cloth. It's not to be worn during funerals, according
Okay.
to Oyeku Meiji. Now, if that Odu doesn't come up,
Hmm.
then perhaps not. But if someone was to seek consultation and Oyeku comes up, then it's red cloth.
Okay.
Okay. All
Okay.
right. So it's more specific than general. It doesn't say that in every Odu,
Hmm.
but because we can see the Odu in a wider scope.
Mm-hmm.
Like I would not wear red, knowing the Odu.
Right. Okay.
You know, whether it came up for me or not. You know, because whatever agreement that Red Cloth made with Issue is like, okay, got it.
Interesting.
Yeah. Oh, that talking about interesting. Whew. So there's so much more. It just never ends. As long as I've been in it, I'm still up in the morning and up at night, just amazed, you
Mm-hmm.
know, at the infinite and the vastness of our capacity
Mm-hmm.
to come to grips with it and even ask questions and have dialogue, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So uh speaking of that, being inquisitive, you know, here this young man, I've never seen him before in life, but he comes up and he starts asking these questions. And when I thought about it, even up until last night, I'm looking at being inquisitive,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and there's a certain degree of innocence to being inquisitive if we braid the two together. Okay. He wasn't asking because he wanted anything. He wasn't asking because he was trying to get all the. You know what I mean? It wasn't manipulative. It was pure innocence. And I feel as though because that shoe can come in any form that he, she, it, they decides to come in. That's one of their shoes attributes.
Mm-hmm.
That's why he not only is the Orisha of negotiation, but he can quell the negating forces because, he gets it. He can become them. It's like I'm talking to you like I know you, you know. So this is important, especially now when we start turning the pages and getting deeper into the SU principle. So here we have the inquisitiveness and the innocence of a child. And I know in the Santeria and all the syncretisms, they like to put the child uh, toys and stuff with their shoes,
Mm-hmm.
something that I don't abide by, but I understand why they do it. But I need to see shoes inquisitiveness, not the child. And perhaps that's the only way he can get us to remain inquisitive and not get so locked into you know our own way of thinking.
Mm-hmm.
You understand what I'm saying? And to have an innocence about it. But on the same side, as you is like, you know I'm going to assist you in what I call metacognition, or what is called metacognition. I don't call it that it is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to present not only dualities, but how dualities bring about what's called a synergy, something greater than than the sum of the two parts. So, for example, short story, y'all. All right, you caught me on a good day. As you see, I'm SU down today. All right. So, as the pataki goes, and we've already discussed that pataki in Yoruba means something important, something to be passed on. Okay. Issues walking down a country road, right? And on one side, he has the black, and on the other side, he has the red. Okay. So there's a farmer on either side. Okay. So Eshu, keeps walking and he makes sure that he's seen. Okay. So the farmer on the one side sees the black and the farmer on the other side sees the red. So later on, you know, the farmers are talking about this kind of strange individual that they saw walking down the country road. And the one farmer was like, yeah, he had on black. And the other one was like, nah, he had on red. And they start going back and forth as to, you know, what color Esu was wearing. Of course, they don't know it's Esu. You know, Esu kind of, you know, did his shape shifting thing. So the argument, if I call it, turned into a fight. You know, the two old farmers, they got the fisticuffing and knocking each other around until you know, the people were like, oh, I got to stop this guy. They're no black, no red, no black, no red. All right. So the council was called, and both of the farmers told their story. You know, while women was walking down, I saw he had on all black. Nah, so I said, no, no, wait a minute now. Okay, you saw all black, and all right, what did you see, Farmer B? Farmer B was like, nah, he had on red, he had on red. It was all red, and his shoe was there. And of course, at the time, he wasn't wearing his red and black because he, you know, and at this point, people would say he's a trickster. You understand? At this point, they would say, "Oh, he set them up," you know, so that they would get into this, you know, this heated argument that turned into something disruptive. Okay, so as the council was really trying to determine what's going on, because there was no clear, you know, answer. Nobody else saw it. It was just, you know, the two farmers. But now, as Shu walks up and he tells everybody what he did. Okay, he tells everybody what he did. He said, I did it intentionally. You know? And people are like, why? You know what I mean? Why would you do that? You see what it caused. And then she was like, I didn't cause that. I didn't cause them to argue. And I definitely didn't cause them to fight. I didn't speak to neither one of them. You understand? So, what is it that you need to learn based on what just happened here? I didn't trick anybody. I just brought something to the surface so that perhaps moving forward, you won't be so easily set to disrupt and set to destroy. Think about that. Think about that. So this whole thing about the trickster, you know, is it's primary level at best. But seeing beyond the duality, seeing what surfaces as a result of the tension that we allow, that we drowned ourselves in, as opposed to perhaps even thinking, well, we saw him from two different points of view. Can we agree on that? You understand? This is how SU works, you know, in part. There's so many other ways that, you know, the SU essence, the SU force, the SU, you know, cosmic play plays out. But this is clearly an example of a higher thinking on the part of SU and a not so higher thinking on the part of the human beings. Hmm. What do you think, Ian? What are the people saying? Come on now. Yes.
We have the Karades in the chat today.
All right. All right.
So
Beautiful.
Adeola says issue challenges our certainty. Absolutely.
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 Yeah. Yeah.
I
So
completely agree with that.
yeah. So these people fighting. We're fighting over what? Our
Perception.
yes.
Mm-hmm.
Our viewpoints.
Yeah.
We're not seeing each other being together as something greater than us even being side by side.
There's so many different reasons why people fight over viewpoints, whether it's power dynamics or
Yes.
vulnerability, egos, what's real and what's not, just wanting to be heard, different things like that. But
Yeah.
I like how the farmer tried to intervene, but it can be difficult.
Well, yeah, yeah, yeah. You see, and this is why we are in Ifa initiation,
Hmm.
because as difficult as it is, there is much to learn from it.
Yeah, for
And,
sure.
and yeah, as difficult as it is, that there is much to gain from it, and there's much to transfer as a quote unquote pataki. If we want to get into the real meaning of it, it's not just the story; it's the moral of the story.
Mm-hmm.
And now, let's say if in a class situation
Mm-hmm.
of pragmatic approaches, then it would be, what have you experienced? You know, just don't listen to Bobby Karade. Take it in. And it's like, yeah, I can recall times when I was so stuck on how I thought it should go. Look at you. It was like,
Yes, I'm always misunderstood, and it's a work, and so eventually I
mhm.
have to draw my swords, or just say, okay, I'm willing to submit,
Right.
or
It's too much.
it's okay.
Let it go.
Hmm.
Because that person is just as entitled to their point of view as you are to yours.
Hmm.
And what Eshu is saying is that if something isn't done, it results to harm. It results to destruction.
Now you have people insulting one another just for their own protection, just to feel safe.
Exactly. Okay. But no one having the strength to say, even with any Fani Sheshe, is that Eshu is trying to teach us a lesson here. Let's back up. Let's recalibrate. Let's recalculate. You know what I mean? Let's revisit this.
Yeah. Even if it's 24 hours later, maybe 2 weeks later.
Maybe it's 2 years later.
Yeah.
But the point is, we're not warring against each other. We're not set to harm one another. And again, so this whole thing about Eshu being the devil and all
Yeah.
that kind of thing, which is seeping all into the freaking Google and all these other social media, and then you got young people trying to find their way in Ifani Sheshe, and they're seeing this.
Hmm.
We have work to do.
It's
Grown.
power. It's definitely a work to do. And it's being that I saw that when I was out there visiting, and I would see it all over social media, that shoe is not Satan. I was like, wow, the power of controlling the narrative is
Ah,
is just so vast. It's just so broad,
yeah,
you
yeah,
know, to even get to that point where they have to even say that, where they have to promote that
yeah,
shoe is not Satan.
yeah, yeah. But we're doing our part. Okay,
Hmm.
like I say, Ifa Isheshe from the pragmatic approach, you know, it's a movement. It's not a ceremonial, kind of, escape from reality kind of thing. Ain't nothing supernatural about it. You know, it like you just stated, it's hard work. But what else does Isheshe mean? Isheshe. It's hard work. But like the Odu Idio Warren states that Isheshe is inside of the hip bones, you know, because it's about generations, the generations who have come before us, the generations that we are now in the here and now. and the generations that come after us. We're not doing it for our momentary, you know, immediate gratification and our kind of misguided, what we want to do this for. You know, I want to have special powers, and I can call down the. Yeah, well, if since you calling down so much, let's try to kind of ease up on the incarceration of our people, ease up on the greater majority, in comparison to other quote unquote races in this country. Are women dying more so in childbirth and the child mortality rate? Since we have so much power, you know, are we in the schools doing anything? If we have so much, okay, then why are we still, you know, drowning in the misery and so easily erased because we're helping in the process. You know? And she was like, start learning, start growing, start collaborating. Uh, Back in the day, in the marketplaces, oh John, in the marketplaces, they would have statues of Eshu there at the entrance. Why? Because yes, it's about negotiation, but there is no negotiation without communication. So Eshu is the Orisha of communication. And you can even say Allah Foshe, Allah Foshe, the one who brings about the light on the words, the Ofoashe, the power of words. Okay. So here, our ancestors have this understanding, and they work together in these marketplaces for thousands of years. We just didn't come into existence in the 14, 15, 16, 17, 1800s. You know what I mean? Europeans did not make us into existence. They only have us thinking that way. And this is where a shoe comes into play. Okay? Because Eshu is also the Orisha of global transference and transmission of ideas, concepts, cultures. I even heard an interview that was done of the scholar, you know, Yoruba, was introduced, interviewing an elder. He was introduced to him, and this elder, was sharing with this young scholar that Eshu permitted the enslavement of the African people. I was like, yo, this is interesting. Okay. He said because the other Orisha wanted to fight. The other Orisha was like, no, it's not going to happen. And they were ready to draw their powers together and then come down heavy on the Europeans specifically. Okay. But Eshu was like, no, I'm not going to let it happen. If I don't sign off on it, it's not going to happen. And of course, they wanted to know, well, why not? Don't you see the suffering? Don't you see what's going on here? And then she was like, we will survive it. But watch and see what happens to each and every last one of you on a global scale, on a world scale. Yes, we're suffering, but that suffering will not last forever. But Orisha will last forever. And I was like, you see, it doesn't get any better than this. And that's why, I'll bring in things about the Odu and all that kind of thing. Yeah, and that's fine for people, kind of got to be thumping, and Agbe says this and you're doing fine, but we're not listening to the elders. We're not finding these old interviews. We're not digging deep into these studies because we're not pointed in those directions. And granted, time, and not everyone's of that, kind of research kind of nature. But that's why I'm here. That's why I'm here. I'm here to bring it to you. You know, because see, this is a part of the battle for our OREs. You understand? So that's just a deep side note in respect and in regard to the 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 the, the ashe of Eshu. And they say, Eshu carries the offerings to all of the Orisha, you know? And when you think about it, are we talking about some outside messenger, some outside, deity, that literally carries, the part of the sacrifice or, whatever. And I'm like, no, no. You see, we take something that's an understanding reached over years, and then we as human beings make it tangible to us. We want to touch it. We want to feel it. Okay. But those who know realize that those are external, basically substitutes to placate some need for human sensory concreteness. Okay. For example, we can't see inside of our bodies. Okay. So that becomes secondary if even thought of at all. It's like, where's your pancreas? You know what I mean? Where's your liver? Come on, people. You're walking around with this all the time. You know everything else is out there. You know where Jupiter is, but you don't know where your gallbladder is. You understand? So we're not looking inside, and this is what Eshu, and this is why Eshu is so close with Orunmila, esoterically speaking, because Eshu is the nervous system. Messenger, nervous system, okay? We get it. Eshu in us is the nervous system, the parasympathetic, you know, and the sympathetic. The spinal cord with all the nerves running through. Every micro millimeter or whatever of us has nerves. This is why Eshu was so important. You know, this is why Eshu was so important. Even our thoughts are governed by a nervous system, a system of nerves. And the more we become aware of it, the more we become aware of ourselves. And the more we become aware of ourselves, the more we are on the road, traveling on the road of becoming, as Arumula teaches us, authentic human beings in a Yankee. The more we start to weigh our outbursts and our inbursts and the way that we govern ourselves and the way that we permit others to govern us becomes a matter of what's going on inside of our body, what we eat. Why do we eat food that does our body no good at all? What is our addiction? Eshu was like, become aware, you know, not of what others have made you and what you are, but who you are. Okay. All right, Ian. Say again.
I said, I am here.
Okay. All right.
Rain is here, and she mentioned how she was scared at one point as well whenever she was first told about Eshu, how scary he is.
Uh,
And but then eventually over time she started to see him as loving and supportive.
okay.
Hmm.
Yes, yes, Rain, without a doubt. I mean, even with the story, SU's visit, eh, when the SU, you know, walked away, I didn't expect to see him ever again. But it's kind of just like teleported himself, you know. I turn around and there he is again, and he's handing me a flower,
Yeah.
you know.
Hmm.
Nothing done or said, nothing to make me feel any kind of way. But
Hmm.
the encounter changed me. That's not something relegated to the devil, okay? And here we even saw and Oyeku, when a fish even refused to make the sacrifice, and when fish even called Eshu a thief, she just went off on him. You
Hmm.
know, when she decided, after watching her children die, that she was going to make the sacrifice and make peace with Eshu. Eshu was like, "Okay, I got you."
Hmm.
That doesn't sound like somebody to be afraid of. And this is right out of the Odu. So people want to be thumping the Odu, but they still kind of promote that Judeo, you know, Christian Islamic, view of needing to have some overpowering evil force in your religious mindset.
Yeah, that's
We're
true.
like, we don't need it. We don't need it. If it wasn't there for thousands of years, why all of a sudden we need it? Or perhaps you are it. Since you bringing it,
Hmm.
why you got it so tough, so deep?
Hmm.
You know, we didn't have it. That's not to say we were all perfect and we didn't have our wars, and we part of the human family. Stuff happens,
Hmm.
but it wasn't on the scale of what we suffered based on these Abrahamics. Nowhere near it, you know. And that has a lot to do with the so-called the deities being confused for divinities, on their side. We're like the deities and the divinities, they're at one with us, you know. So yeah, that's where we are with that.
So I know that you shared some pictures of SU.
Uh-huh.
Did you
Hmm.
want to
Yes.
share?
Uh-huh. Moving on. You read my mind
Mhm.
again. All right. So what do we have?
Before we jump into it, Shamika Sparrow says, "Yes, Eshu has no intention of harming us. He is simply allowing us to experience the duality of our own decisions and chosen experiences." Ashe.
Ashe. Thank you, Shamika. So here we have an artist depiction of Eshu. Yeah, and we've had various depictions of Eshu. I mean, again, if you Google it, you're going to come up with at least 30, 40 of them. All right. But that's the way it is. I mean, the Sistine Chapel gave everybody that this is how God looked with the blue eyes and the white skin and everything like that. So artists have always, presented deities and divinities in ways of cultural construct. I particularly like this one because to me it bespeaks more of the continuation of an image that connects to the SU pragmatically. Okay. So here we have this cosmic essence, this range of possibilities molded into the shape of a human being. the process is called anthropomorphism, you know, and walking the path. You see, notice the feet, the road, and we all say, Esu is at the crossroads. Esu is of the road. Okay. Now, when I look at this and I say, I see two hemispheres of the brain. Okay. You got one hemisphere on one side and one hemisphere on the other. And then there's a path, okay, a separation between them, though connected. Okay. And here is where everything, basically takes place. So when we start talking about we're on a road, and when we start talking about joining what appears to be dualities into a oneness, and then again using the word synergy, what happens when we do that is more than what happens when we just add them together. Now we're merging them, and something greater happens. We have greater understanding. We have greater under and overstandings. We perceive things differently. We see a young boy running towards us, not as some, little out of control kid, but we see it as a shoe. You understand? We see a dandelion growing up, in the sea of grasses, and we see it as an offering to Oshun. This doesn't happen because we're imagining. It's happening because we're imaging from a whole nother state of mind. And if we're into Ifani Sheshe just to maintain, the status quo, well, don't think like that. Oh, that's scary. Or, don't get too involved in that. Oh, these people, they don't know what they're doing. Then we might as well stay somewhere else, because see, we bring in that same no-mindedness into a mindset that is giving us everything. You know. And the call is, like Shamika was saying, like Adeola was saying, okay, like Rain was saying, is that we are getting so much stronger within ourselves that we're going to take those shackles off of our minds and off of our spirits, so that we can see the soulful essence of our ancestors more clearly and understand that they understood. They just weren't making up stories. They just weren't running around, doing dances and all that kind of stuff. They were deep thinking, and they put it in a way that could be passed down. They put what's wordless into words. They put what's formless into form. They put what's so difficult to understand into understanding. And we are set to do the same. We are set to do the same. It is our destiny. Okay. So here we have the Esu artistically presented, walking down the path, and on one side is one side of the brain, and on the other side is the other side of the brain. Okay, and we're holding each, but and we know that they're there, but because we have power over them, we walk lightly on our path, and we will reach our destination. Okay, Ashe. Next slide, please. Okay. Now, I chose these because I know that many of us, we're in and out of the syncretisms, and for a lot of us, to include myself, that was a part of the first step, into the what we used to call back in the day, Orisha or Yoruba. Some of us who became more into the Latin flow and flavor. We're saying ocha, you know. So all of it, But this is how the issues were made to look. Okay. Now we'll see. Look at the bottom one there with the red and black, just like I have on today. And those of you who have your A's, or at least have seen people with A's, and you say, "Oh well, the red and black. Oh, that's for a shoe." So then I would ask, and again as a part of class structure, well, what do those colors signify? What do they stand for? No, what do they mean? And I'm telling most people, okay, let's say at a room of 100 people, all somewhat exposed or to varying degrees exposed to Ifani Sheshe, would say, oh, well, the red stands for the blood and the black stands for the people. Okay, very Kwanzaa like response. Okay, um, even going back to Garvey, Marcus Garvey, Ibai. And I'm saying, yeah, but no. Okay. I see how you see it and I see why you see it. But from the Yoruba understanding, Eshu has great power over the earth. And I spoke about that, just a moment or two ago, in terms of having the global perspective, in terms of being the Orisha of global transmission. Okay. Right. Because, see, in the Yoruba, red stands for power, the power to bring into being, the power to bring into force. Pupa, Pupa, Yoruba for red. Okay. It's the power of being. If I say Aj Pupa, now we're talking about the menstrual cycle. Okay. It's red. That's reflected in camp and the camel. So, here we have red. We see red in many different areas. We see this word for red, pupa, in many places. So it's not for the blood specifically when it comes down to a shoe, but when it comes down to women, it's symbolic of their power of birth and rebirth and of life and even of death. All homage to the women folk. Okay. So as you read, I got control over the world. The world is my oyster, to quote Zora Neale Hurston. All right. And the black, okay, the black is for the earth herself. Aye Dudu. Okay. So here we have an Orisha that has touched all places on this earth and shares with us that we can have a not only a global perspective, but a global sense of belonging. We have the right to belong to this earth, and we have the right to bring forth our teachings and our understandings. I'm thinking now even of the handbook. You know, back in the 90s and 2000s, in 4 or 5 languages. I'm getting called from Europe, so, different countries, and some people from Japan. And I mean, I'm like, just it's having a global impact. And I'm like, Modu Pue Eshu, you know? All right. And so, of course, in the cowrie shells, um, wealth, and then we got one back there in the seashells, and a big seashell. My issue, one of them, uh, was like that. And I would make issues for people of the temple, you know. All right, next slide, please. Okay. Now here we see the Esu'S. All right, wrapped around the SU. All right, we just talked about red and black. Okay. Different form, but that little candle in the back, and she got the red parrot feather. Okay. Somewhat symbolic of one's initiation and relationship of the Orisha principle. Okay. Via that red parrot feather. Okay. So when we see these objects, although you know made more so by the people who are into the syncretisms to be this trickster force, or this force of undoing, we from the pragmatic approach see quite the opposite. Okay, quite the opposite. It's just basically another artistic form that some people accept. That doesn't mean that we have to accept it. And even if we do, it doesn't have to mean that we think that the way that they're telling us to think. It's like, no, I see something entirely different here. I see laterite stone. I see cowrie shells for wealth. I see red and black for global presentation and representation. Okay. So uh, don't tell me it's something terrible and spooky and synonymous to evil, the devil. Hmm. Okay. Uh, Next slide, please. Uh, okay. Thank you. All right. This is the last slide, and this is a the cover of a book, a massive study done on SU by a student and of academic prowess, okay, by the name of Toyin Falola, and the book was written back in 2013. It's close to 400 pages, and he goes through it. Eshu, Yoruba God Power and the Imaginative Frontiers. What a lovely title! What a lovely title! Okay, and look at this image of Eshu. Okay, again, thousands of images. Okay, and perhaps thousands of ways to perceive, and a thousand to the thousand power in terms of how an individual integrates the SU principle and then brings that principle out into the world. I wrote Global Perspectives, moved by SU's hand. We are so locked in on 1619, and I had to share with somebody just yesterday that our our struggle through this time period enslaved did not begin in 1619. It began like in the 1400s. We can't dismiss the Portuguese and the Spanish and just say, oh, it was the British. No. Okay. Global perspective. How are we fitting into the world picture? And he states that, you know what I mean? And God, God power, imaginative, writing, crossing those hemispheres of the brain, pulling out our creativity, praise writing, writing in praise of our Orisha, writing in praise of our experiences. We are the living patakis, my people. We don't have to keep reading somebody else's interpretation and trying to hold on to something that just doesn't really relate. But, it's it's a nice story, and I'm amazed by it. But where's the practical application? Well, eventually, the practical application is you sitting down and being creative and becoming the writer upon the blank pages that are your mind, the author of your life. Okay. So, the book, getting back to Exu, Ilegua, as we might hear, coming from the voices of the syncretism folks. Ilegba, okay? Sometimes he's even heard the word Odara, okay? And I'm going to read this short clip, and then I'll be finished. In Yoruba cosmology, Eshu is the divine messenger. He is central to the understanding of traditional Yoruba beliefs and worldview, as well as their various manifestations and related Orisha traditions in the African diaspora. Those such as Candomblé, Voodoo, and Santeria, Lukumi, etc. Eshu and Ifa, divination with all the sacred texts, or Orumila, the Irun Mole of divination, rank as the most widespread and most worshipped of all the deities. Both Eshu and Ifa Orumila hold the Yoruba cosmic system together. Eshu is now part of what some say or may label as the Black Atlantic religion, part of the attempt to recover African religions in other lands, as well as part of the use of religion for survival. And remember, I touched on all of this before getting to the write up about the book. As this book points out, in Eshu's ability to migrate to other lands, he becomes part of transatlantic history, but more so of the tension between relocation and history itself, between the violence that led to the forced migrations of people and the long healing process of reconciliation and living in strange lands that have become homelands. It's out there. We are less than 1%. We are closer to 0% in terms of our representation. Only 4 to 5% of people of African descent are published writers in this country. I dare say in the world. And even a fraction of that 4% is writing about us, either creatively, like A Place of Night's Warm Resurrection and Souls of Myrrh, okay, where we infuse, okay, our elements of ancestral bearing into our creative work, and into our poetry, okay, into our healing, into our relationships with one another. Hmm. Like Shamika said, wow. All right, Ianifa. I'm going to sit back for a minute. I feel my SU kind of, uh, doing what it does to me. So I need to sit back and hear from people.
Well, not much from the comments. Thank you, Shamika. I do agree. We are reclaiming our way. Um, I just wanted to say that as an author, I do know that it's important to write our own stories and be the narrative.
Mhm.
Otherwise, you give control over to other people. And even though we live in a digital world now, things are a lot more advanced, whether it's writing in a book
Mhm.
or making video posts, whatever that may be. I still believe that we have to be controlled in control of our narratives.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Even if it's within our own circle,
Mm-hmm.
you see, yeah, it's not like we have to spread ourselves so thin, but from our seeds, uh, trees grow. You
Yeah.
know, they branch out. You know,
Mm-hmm.
they bear leaves, they bear fruit. The fruit bears its seed, and it continues. And those seeds are carried by the winds of consciousness. You know, and by the flight of technology. So the more we post, and especially as a concentrated unit, the greater the impact is going to be. And like I said, Ifa Isheshe, for we of the pragmatic school, that is our purpose. That is our purpose. And if leadership is needed, look no further. Okay. If a way is needed, a vehicle, look no further. Instead, look within and ask yourself, are you ready? Are you seriously ready? Okay. And yes, we can be readers, and yes, we can be, diviners, and yes, we can be ritualists, and yes, we can be all of that. But what's at the core? What's at the core of your purpose? And this is where the importance of Eshu comes in. Okay. Because see, that has to be determined. Because other than that, it is what it is. Now, I also want to add how important Eshu is to Orumila. Those of us who have been initiated into, you know, uh, Ifa, and we've come to understand that there are 5 branches of being an Awo, and not all of them require sitting around memorizing Odu in 2026. Okay, there are so many other ways to learn and process and apply. We're not in a monastery, we're not part of a group that's on the fringes of any social setting. We are immersed. We work, we raising children, we have everything going on. So we're not monastic. And as she was always saying, and Rumila as well, find out what really works for you and then work it. Okay. If you're writers, then write. If you have technological prowess, then use it to bring forth the light of Ifa. And if you have leadership qualities, start owning up to it. I know that has been a struggle for me. You know, that has been a struggle. Not that I've not always been a leader, you know, but to accept a sense of worthiness of it is something that has come with age and battle scars. You understand? So it's like, okay, I'm taking responsibility. I'm donning the cloth of Eshu. And Eshu has brought me through that young boy, you know, an offering plucked from the earth. And if I needed to be any more changed, it happened that day. I haven't been the same since. I'm more insane than I was before. But anyway, you know, that's a good thing. Okay. But yeah, so Eshu is necessary when you receive E5. Ite-fa, Ishe-fa, wherever fa is heard, that Eshu principle needs to be there. How can the messages be carried? And the friendship that developed between Eshu and Orumila is binding. They can't be separated. You know, when Orumila left this earth because of the family situations that he was going through, and the disrespect that his eldest son was showing, you know, it was Eshu who said, hold up, boss, you know, this is serious, but is it that serious? Because we're gonna leave people without your wisdom, without your grace. And a rumor was like palm seeds. Okay, I'm out. And then she was like, okay, okay, we still cool, right? And the rumor was like, yeah, you know, but I'm out. Cause see, I don't want to hurt anybody, you know. So as Shu then says, okay, for the Opole, you need king. You now represent Orumila. Okay. And that's how that came to be. And that's why Eshu's face is on at the top of every Opon. See? So it gets deeper and deeper. But the deeper it gets, the better it gets. Not the more horrific it gets, not the more frightening it gets, but the more liberating it gets. Okay? And that's where we are, pragmatically speaking, philosophically speaking, and not bringing that hell and brimstone and blah, blah, blah all up in the house. You know, leave that at the door if you can. And if not, and you want it to be removed, then we'll come and we'll help you. As if I call, I say, we're not going to let you drown. You can't come in the water with chains on you, you know? All right. So that's it. That's it. I think I said a lot in a short period of time, but I hit the high notes.
Short period of time. I think we right on time.
Oh my goodness, you're right on time. See, that's what happened when I start traveling. My 90 minutes is up in 4 minutes. Okay.
Well, I'm sure that they'll be excited to learn more in the Ipai Sheshe lecture series if they're so interested in participating in those. But you're so absolutely right that there's depths to this. I was smiling while you were talking about how deep it could go in the ways that issue can be interpreted. Because I recently read a story about issue knocking a Rumila upside the head during divination because he wanted to share. He wanted to share divination. He wanted to help Ogun become a diviner. And
Mhm.
so Rumila basically was like, no. And his shoe had hit him upside the head. And in my mind, I'm thinking, like, that's the warning. That's the warning that Eshu gives us. Basically, if we're so stubborn to
Yeah, yeah,
like,
yeah.
okay, you don't want someone to have the access to these same tools.
Right.
Because even as diviners, we want to be responsible before we give something out, right?
Responsible. Right.
You know, and even and I believe Orumala knew that Ogun may
What's
not,
going to tear him up?
because Ogun was hot headed, ready to
Uh-huh.
do whatever, and he did exactly what we knew Ogun would do.
It's predictable after a while, right?
So I can understand why Orumala would at some point be like, enough.
Yeah,
You,
yeah.
you, I'm not helping no more. Y'all can figure this out on your
Right, right.
own.
And then that just goes to show too that it does take figuring out. I mean, even if someone was to abide by that patiki and say,
Mhm.
"What the heck on? I thought they were tight," you know. And Oloye said they were tight, but sometimes. even the tightest of relationships has, like you shared earlier, it's difficult. There's egos involved. There's,
Mhm.
all kinds of reasons why people do what they do. But what's the moral of the story? You know, what lessons are we learning and what lessons are we passing on
Yes.
directly and indirectly, and
Mm-hmm.
even and or directly and indirectly.
So
So
many lessons. Surrender being one of them. Learning
yeah,
when to surrender,
yeah,
and I find that without those difficulties, we wouldn't really know what the
exactly.
issue is. So we have to. Some things need to be exposed to us in harsh ways.
Yes,
You
yes.
know. So.
Humanity itself would not evolve to this point if it were not for, you know, all kinds of climatic changes, all kinds of predators, you know what I mean? All kinds of poisons, in the air and in the food. This has been going on for millions of years.
Hmm.
We're adapting. Things have to, people, well, Baba, how you know what you know, and well, you're wise and elder, blah blah blah. Oh, hold on now, okay? Because you making it sound like this is like an easy prop up. I'm like, I'm in my mid 70s. You want me to open my chest and show you the pieces of my heart that
Hmm.
are no longer there, much less shattered. You want me to open up my mind and show you the turmoil and the suffering and the worst things that I've done in
Hmm.
order to learn
Yeah.
after the fact, if there is an after the fact,
Hmm.
you know, the ripples in my own mind, and what I have to do to make my waters sacred,
Hmm.
to detox and reassess and resurrect on a continual basis. So yeah, I'm in this position in my solitude, but I'm also in this position in my continual efforts to make my waters sacred and to keep them that way. I should.
Hmm. I should. Adiola, I agree with you. Surrendering what you are certain about is difficult. It is.
Yeah, yeah.
Hmm.
But the prize of it, if one could use that term, you know, and I can say this with a surety, that
Hmm.
once you do kind of overcome your certainty, uncertainty, there's there's a treasure waiting,
Hmm.
you know, and that treasure is the betterment of yourself. I have one person as just sharing with me. Oh, I'm getting older. I'm starting to kind of forget things, and I don't really, find interest in too many things that I'm doing. And I told her that's wonderful. If I call it that, you know me, right? It's
Hmm.
like, of course you would say that. That's wonderful because for everything that you're forgetting, that leaves space for you to learn something new.
Yeah, that's true.
And for however bored that you feel as though you're getting, that you're stagnating, that leaves room for you to try something else entirely different.
Hmm.
But
Yeah.
see, that's shoe talking.
And then you never know who might be on the other side of that, who might be waiting
But
for you
that's
whenever you do decide to say, I want to try something new.
right, right. And
Or,
and
or I'm bored. I'm bored. I don't really have excitement for things anymore. And somebody might be like, well, I was hoping to find somebody that would just listen to me.
that's all. That's
And now
and
you
that
sit there, now you find you a good friend.
well, that's a whole nother topic. But anyway, You know, and maybe let's read some of this Bobby Ifa Karade book. You know what I mean? Let's start a little book club. You know, let's do something. You know,
Do
what's this
something.
whole Ifa Orisha thing about? Is it like church? Is it like this? No, but let's find out because see, we've been so stuck on our certainty
Mm-hmm.
that we imprison ourselves. You know, and
Mm-hmm.
close ourselves off to new experiences and new loves, and that could just be a new love for nature.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you're so bored. When the last time you went out and took a walk? You know, or you know, when the last time you just went outside?
Mm-hmm.
You know, yeah. So we you know we can do something about this. This is what Ifani Sheshe is here for.
Mm-hmm.
You know, to live our lives at any and every capacity, and to see beyond our certainties and our points of view. Now, he had on red. No, he had on black. No, he had on red. No, he had on black. I'm punch you in the face. No, 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 no.
Now you walking around with a black eye.
Right, and that shoe cracking up. So you look at y'all. Look at you. Look at you. Comedic. And you have so much more that you can do and so much more that you can offer. So when that black eye heals,
Mm.
my brother, you know, pick up a pen, write down the experience, you
Yeah.
know, let it sink in. Okay.
Mhm.
All right, good people. It's
Well, it's
been
been wonderful, wonderful talk. I did not think the issues visit was going to be this compelling. Well, we have a great visit with issue today, and
mhm,
so many more visits that issue is going to bring us. So I look, I look forward to. We both look forward to hearing stories. So if anybody's interested in sharing any of their visits with issue, and they want to write it down, we invite you to share some of those stories. Send it to us via, you know, messenger or emails. So we
mhm. Yeah, and I'll read them out on the daily dose. Awake
can.
with the that's what I've been doing.
Mhm.
And if you don't want your name, just say anonymous. Okay. But
Mhm.
that doesn't mean that you should be heard and remember Eshu is of the world, you know? And so why shouldn't you be a part of how this world thinks,
Mhm.
what this world thinks about us? Hmm.
Here's the email in case you guys are wondering. sacredwatershealingtemple@gmail.com. You want your contact up there so they can reach out to you.
No, 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 you got it, you got
Oh, yeah, you like Karade.
it. You are great. All right.
All right.
No double.
All right, Dabo. Enjoy the rest of your evening and see you again next Sunday. Also, tune in Sacred Waters Healing Temple on YouTube if you're interested in hearing more of the dailies. There's over 200 videos that you can explore. Daily dose of